I wouldn't be a therapist without you. I think you know a little bit of the story.
I think you would have found it.
Well, I think maybe.
But I always like smile to myself when a client's like, you know what? I discovered da-da-da-da. I'm like,
Yeah,
that's great. Because it's their own growth and it's more meaningful.
Because they're their own expert in their own journey. I can just, the more I sit back, the more the client can lean forward.
Yeah.
And that was a powerful or hard tool I had to learn.
And you can maybe speak to this a little bit more. I think the message historically to men has been not to express as much.
Yeah.
But then like in our culture, the strong black woman or super woman stereotype also prevents some of that expression of feeling depressed or feeling sad. So I think it can manifest across both.
Welcome to the Heal to Lead podcast, the space where we're coming to unlearn surviving life and embracing wholeness. Listen, it's not about perfection, it's about presence. I am your host, the one and only Kevin Overton-Hadnot, and I'm excited about this episode. Why? Because I have my mentor, professor from the great seminary of the Southwest, Dr. Awa Jangha. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Why don't we start by maybe open up and let us know, like maybe where you're from and a little bit more about your background.
I am from Silver Spring, Maryland. I was born in D.C.
D.C.
East Coast. Yes.
I love the East Coast, by the way. That's like my second home, I think.
There's a lot of good. You get all the seasons there. It's been an adjustment in Texas that it's like short summer, long summer, hot summer, and then maybe a little bit of winter. But I'm from the East Coast area and moved here to Austin in 2016 and have been here ever since and enjoy the space, the environment, where I work, what I do. Yeah. It is a little bit of an adjustment in coming from a place where there's so many black people to like seeing black people in the street and be like, hey, it's good to see you.
You do exist.
Yeah.
Is that a huge adjustment, you think, or what's like the most challenging part of that process or transition?
I think it is a cultural shift. Just because there's something really important about seeing more of people who look like yourself in spaces. And so when you do find it, it's like wanting to make connections and hold on to that. Yeah.
What was like the most, I guess, best memory, I guess, growing up in Silver Springs then? It feels like that's a sacred part of you.
Best memory? Most of my family is in Maryland. And so we will get together, not just around holidays, but it'll be like someone's birthday, and it's extended family all coming together. And you probably would describe us as carnivores. There's a lot of meat, a couple sides.
Okay.
At like a cookout or like a Thanksgiving kind of thing. But what you would expect at Thanksgiving is present for most of their gatherings together. So it's a lot of fellowship over really good food, and I think that's something that I miss the most.
I think my dad would fit right in because when we go to East Texas, it's pretty much meat, brisket, all those things. It's like, where's the sides and the salad and the Caesar salads and things like that? But wow, I love that. And so just fellowshipping with family and like those are the best memories, I think, as well. And like I remember our family getting together every Sunday. It was like a religion, right? It was like, or a routine rather. Yeah. And just coming together, hanging out, getting to know each other even more, getting to share stories about the past week. And my grandfather was one. I remember just praying a lot, even on Sundays after church. We had family meetings after church on Sundays. No, real meetings. Yeah. With like spreadsheets, budgets, agendas. But again, I wouldn't trade my family for anything. So I just appreciate just hearing more stories like that. But that is, I guess, what would you say sort of in your mind, like comes from that? And what I mean by it is like, I think for my family, I guess that's where I got more of my family values, my love for like, community, like just for being loving and nurturing. What are some of the things or notes, rather, would you say you gleaned from those experiences or memories?
I would say the importance of celebration and how that's validating for those who are being celebrated and those who are watching from multiple generations.
Wow.
I get to see the pride that's there and the investment of cousins once and twice removed. They're just interested. Like, what are you doing? How's life going? I'm so proud of you. I heard you're doing X, Y, and Z. I know somebody who's like engaged in what you want to eventually want to become or do, and just seeing the support there, I think has influenced me to want to be an encourager and a supporter too.
Wow. But now it's obviously family is more on the East Coast, it sounds like. Have you had to like recreate that family or community in Austin now that you're here?
Yeah, that's been my thought was like, I'm gonna come move to Austin and find a church and I'm just gonna have an instant like
of course,
a self-made created family.
In like portable family.
Yeah, in quick time. And it took longer. I think it does take longer as an adult when you're in a new space to create community and connection. That's a little bit different than when you're in school or in an environment where you're around people. And that sort of fosters that opportunity for connection more. So it's taken a while. It took me a while to find the church that we attend, David Chapel, but definitely felt a family feel there. And then just building through work connections and through connections that I made where I was living and just making, you know, being outgoing and getting out of my comfort zone to make connections has offered me the ability to feel like I have a community here too.
Love it. I just jumped in as I normally do. First of all, I just want to ask you, like I asked everyone else, how are you feeling for real? How are you feeling today?
Oh, like general?
Yeah, just in general. Yeah. That's usually like my opening question, but I just wanted to just jump in and like just get going.
Yeah, I feel good, but let me give you an emotion. I feel
love it. Love
it. Joyful.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, when you consider all the things that are happening in the world, like being able to grasp a bit of joy and hold on to it is important.
I love that. Maybe describe your life maybe as if it were a garden. So maybe today, what would you say is blooming right now in your life, or what part of your life have you sort of neglected, like an unwatered plant?
Oh, I have a black thumb. So when you say what's dying or hasn't bloomed is neglected, my plants at home are a reality of that.
I have one actually that is doing fairly well. I mean, again, I have an orchid, but obviously, hopefully, it'll be bloomed. But I have one plant that is moving and grooving at least. So I'm proud of myself for keeping that.
Way to go!
Yeah.
When I think about what's blooming, I think I've been really intentional in this season around wellness, like overall. So not just physically, but also spiritually and emotionally, relationally, and just having intention around engaging in practices that can be better, healthy lifestyle practices, and not just alone, but in community as well. So that I think is going pretty well. I'm excited about that. What is a neglected plant that is brown and dying that needs to be watered and tended to? So one of the things that I've been trying to learn to do more is use my voice more. And I'm very tempted to just be quiet and to stretch out more by saying something when I'm thinking of it instead of just like, well, if you would have asked me, I would have told you. But actually, I wouldn't have told you. I just would have thought it. So I think that's an area of being able to water and grow more, to risk sharing more.
But can I go deeper with that? Is that more like in certain spaces, or like where would you sort of restrict, you feel, most?
I think it's overall. I've been practicing it more and more in spaces where I have more power or authority. So for instance, I can work in going from junior faculty to senior faculty. I'm in some more spaces where I have the ability to say something and speak up for someone who maybe is not in the room. And so I feel like there's a motivation to do that is beyond just my own getting over my own stuff. But I think for me, it's more so like I don't want to offend or hurt someone, or I might just change my mind. So oftentimes my inclination is to not necessarily share something.
Yeah. No, I would say something that's sort of growing in my life now is more of my, I guess, spiritual or my relationship with God. Honestly, I feel like I've been really fostering that a whole bunch more, and just not only just reading my Bible. And believe it or not, I've been joining a TikTok book club. Bible study actually every Monday. So shout out to the host for that. But yeah, just trying to find more intentional ways to get more closer to God in my own personal relationship with Him. So that's been a joy, and I feel like that's been growing over time. And for my own self, something that's sort of been neglected is just I have projects, but just really clarifying the trajectory of them, but in a more proactive way. So I'm not really reactive in that regard. So yeah, there's still some things that I would say there's probably some other weeds to pick up around that too. But
is that around like organizing and planning things out?
So I have the structure, but I think it could be more organization around. We're moving the organization upstream. Once I get in the zone of getting it done, like I can like really fire it out. But if I can kind of do that like maybe 10 days or a month ahead, that would just give me so much more or less stress going into the actual like a day or event basically. So but yeah, my plate, I have definitely cleared out my plate a lot more. So it's not just, speaking of East Texas or reunions or meetings, it used to be like, ham, hog, meat, oxtails, ribs, everything on the plate. But now it's just baked chicken and macaroni and cheese and green beans, and that's it. And so I have a healthy plate, but it's just trying to like get the organization and like the structure like maybe months in advance, so that I'm not living in it in a stressful manner. So I want to get to know you a little bit better. Okay. Tell us more about your journey becoming a therapist. I know you're a professor now, which is an amazing professor, by the way.
Thank you.
And I learned so much from you. But tell us about your journey becoming a therapist. And also, maybe a little bit deeper, was there something in your life that made you want to become a therapist?
Not a single event. I think that when I was in high school, I had the desire to understand why people do what they do, and had a youth minister who was like, you should be a psychiatrist, because then you can prescribe medication and counsel. And I'm like, okay, that involves med school. And so I went to Fisk University, was my undergrad, and went there my freshman year and was a pre-med major. And I was like, oh no, this is not.
That's not it.
It's not for me. This is a long commitment where I could do something different.
Yeah.
And so I ended up having a weird major in art and Spanish, and then did like a teacher certification. I was taking psychology classes, but more educational psychology. Yeah. And found myself becoming a special education teacher and work with children with autism. And at the time, I was in Virginia, and there wasn't a curriculum yet that was like countywide. And so they're figuring it out and trying to train us to be able to be supportive to students and parents. And they were using a certain approach called applied behavior analysis, which is behavioral therapy, and piqued my interest again. It was about like, okay, what if something changes, will a behavior change if you switch up something before the behavior occurs, or if you change how you respond. And that was a good takeaway of like, I'm still interested in this. And at the time, my mom was an accountant, and she was changing careers and going into counseling. And she took a class in art therapy. And she's like, oh, I think you're going to love this. You should look into it. And I was like, no, because you suggested it. I want nothing to do with it. And then I decided to actually pay attention to that. And I knew I was going to go back into counseling probably in my second or third year of being a special education teacher, and looked into art therapy. And I was like, actually, this is perfect with my art degree and my interest in psychology and counseling. And so that's where I found myself in a school for art therapy, and got exposed to hospice. I think God provided different experiences that guided my path. I was a volunteer at first in Philly, while I was in school, and then ended up doing my internship at a hospice doing art therapy with patients and with families who were grieving.
Yeah.
And that just sort of guided my path to becoming a bereavement counselor and then a spiritually integrated counselor.
Yeah. First of all, shout out to your mom.
Yeah.
She's amazing,
Yes.
so full of love and wisdom. She's amazing. I know she misses me, so tell her I said hi.
I will tell her you said hello.
But I also go back to you in high school. This sort of like piqued your interest. Like, what were you doing at that time that made you say, I want to know more about what people are doing? Or what was happening in that time, I guess?
This was, I remember like the Fugees.
Yeah.
Like 1994 to 98. And I think I don't think there was anything like truly specific that was like, this is what I want to study. I was just very curious about people and the choices that they made. Well, personally, I was going through a rites of passage program as a freshman. And this was, to sort of take it back, my parents were involved in like a People's Revolutionary Party, and had started my brothers and myself at a school called Watoto in DC. And it was centered in a very African diaspora focused education.
Okay.
And so I was there till about first grade, and they have a rites of passage program, or they had one at the time, when you're about 14 or 15. And by the time that mom's like, I think you should still do it, I was like, okay. So I go, but I'm not attending the school, in a school in Maryland at the time. And it's asking me to learn more about myself and my family, and consider the choices that were made across those lines. Why do I believe the religion I believe as opposed to others? And I was like, I haven't been asked this question. How my family makeup is. Why is it that way? Do I know my ancestors? Do I know my lineage? Oh, I don't know if I know that. Like, asking me to think about things that I hadn't thought about before. So I think that was a formative experience that contributed to an interest of like, I wonder why people do the things that they do. Yeah.
And then also fast forwarding, because you obviously, integrate art therapy, and also, you're a spiritually integrated therapist and professor. Tell me what's like your favorite part of that particular integration or intersection, essentially, because both are true.
I think there's something really powerful about a sense of self-awareness and insight happening. And whether that's looking at it from a spiritually integrated point of view or looking at it from an art point of view, where you might express something and it might be coming out in your body, or might be coming out in something that you create, whether that's music or visual art or writing or poetry. And then like taking a moment to sit with it and process it, to sit with someone and say, well, no, you made this. What is this about? And just having like the curious questions. I kind of feel at times like an explorer. Not necessarily a detective, but more like an explorer in like being really curious about what someone has made, or really curious about a statement that's maybe part of their spiritual life that they have not necessarily taken for granted, but in exploring it fuller and explaining it to someone maybe for the first time, there's depth to that.
And so as you became more curious about, obviously, yourself growing up and then moving to Austin, but maybe even somewhere in between there, were there any like internal conversations, maybe battles that you were thinking about when you were stepping into the mental health field? I feel like there just could be maybe some internal things that you were already processing, maybe whether it's like, I don't want to project anything, but an example came up for me, imposter syndrome, obviously worried about that, but any like of those things that come up for you as you were stepping into this particular work?
I think imposter syndrome happens all the time. With anything new. So I've experienced it myself with each new position and new experience. Especially when it comes to stepping into any kind of leadership position. I'm like, I don't know if I'm actually good at this, self-doubt, but also knowing that I have experience of that I can do it. And from a spiritual space, knowing that God has not brought me to do something that can't be figured out, even if I have to. I'm not doing it by myself, and I'm reaching out to other people.
Are there like practical things that you're saying to yourself like every day to like process, I guess to work through some of that imposter syndrome?
So I think about something my colleague Dr. Ramirez has said of I can do hard things. And that reminder, sometimes just having small affirmations of like, yes, it might be hard, but I could do this.
Yeah.
Or I'm not in this alone.
Yeah.
Just small things to remind myself that it's possible to push through it. Also, like time frames. If it's teaching a class and I'm nervous, I'm like, it's just an hour and a half.
Yes, just an hour and a half.
Think about the time I'm supposed to be over by 9 o'clock. It's going to be fun. You know, so those kind of things help things to be more grounded and relative in time.
Yeah, I love that. And then maybe I'm curious about, and still getting to know you more, what's something that you had to unlearn about helping people?
The desire to want to fix is very real.
That is so real.
Yes.
That is so real.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we're fixing people. So it just comes natural. It's like our default button of like trying to fix. I spend a lot of time trying to tell people on TikTok, let's stop giving advice. You can't fix other people. But anyways, that was your question. So what's something you have to unlearn, you think?
Yeah, I think the fact that I can have insight about something that a client may not have. But the power of it doesn't come from me saying it. It comes from the client discovering that in the time that's right.
Yeah.
And so my job is to help walk the client in their journey and be open to the possibility of options. And I may be partially right, or it might be something completely different than what I first thought. So I always feel grateful when it feels like, okay, maybe I shouldn't share this thing that I'm noticing. And I'll just note it and see if there's a pattern. But I always smile to myself when a client's like, you know what? I discovered da-da-da-da. I'm like, that's great. Because it's their own growth and it's more meaningful.
Because they're their own expert in their own journey. And I love that idea that we're just sitting with them on a park bench. We're just working through sort of their journey with them. It's really giving them as you said that, I was laughing inside because I think that maybe a few weeks ago, one of my particular clients I work with, they thought of something that we had already said in a session together, and they kind of re-brought it back up. But also another one of their coach had brought it up. But I think for me, it's giving God the glory because I'm grateful that they got to that particular realization. And maybe even a couple sessions back may have been a seed, right, that they needed to sort of grow a little bit more and then come to their own full realization of that. So, I love that. And also just sitting back more. I have to unlearn that. To your point, fixing it is not really my job, but I can the more I sit back, the more the client can lean forward. And that was a powerful, hard tool I had to learn because I wanted to sit forward and really work through it and kind of insert my own values and projections and assumptions and do it this ways all the time. So,
but people will let you know. They're like, that's not what I think.
Yes.
I'm like, okay.
Yes.
What do you think?
And that at the first ounce of that feels harsh, but really the big fruit of that is. Of course. Well, then that was just a suggestion, right? You tell me what it is that you are thinking or how you want to manifest that or execute it essentially. So
I think another surprise is being open to how when you're sitting with someone, you're not only having a positive impact, ideally, with them, but you're being impacted too. And just being open to whatever that moves or changes or makes you aware of as you're sitting in that space. I'm oftentimes inspired by my clients who are doing some really hard things. And I'm like, maybe I should bump up my courage in this area that may be
for sure.
challenging for me, unrelated, but
That is so interesting. And again, this same client I'm thinking about, we we're working through something hard, and one of the mantras that we came up with was just lock in. And to your point, I was just as equally, if not more, impacted. I wrote it down on my bathroom mirror as well, because I think locking in that particular season that they were in, and obviously I was in, helped me really grow through some of the growing pains of one of the roles that I have, or one of the hats that I wear. So yeah, we're equally just as, because we're humans.
That's right.
And we're in the room as well. I call myself a wounded healer, and so I'm always finding ways for God to impact my life and to grow me. So yeah, absolutely, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Just switching gears slightly, I've recently been having a lot of men, and maybe a lot could be relative to just my own, like either social media presence or just in the sphere of influence that I have there. But a lot of men have been really throwing around the word depression and like just saying, just hey, I have been dealing with depression, which could be very real and true. Yeah. And then equally, of course, the algorithm kind of hears things and picks things up. And so recently I came across a reel or a clip from Dr. Darian Sutton on ABC News. But he just did an interview, and it said that more than 18% of the U.S. adults are experiencing depression, which is tied to social and economic stress. He said many of the young people are hit the hardest, essentially, but also letting us know that mental health is becoming more of a barometer for economic well-being. And he says that people, meaning families, individuals making under $24,000 a year, have the highest rates of depression. So I was just curious if you could maybe, from your experience and perspective, like share some more signs and ways to think about to help people really understand if there is signs of depression. I know we have a whole DSM, and we have criteria to meet, but if there's ways that you can help us think about it in a different way, or just in general to sort of just process it more fully.
Yeah. One of the classes that I'm teaching this semester is psychopathology. And so I've been sharing my perspective around mental health disorders existing on the spectrum, where there's a normal kind of experience, and normal like in quotes, of what the everyday person may experience if they're going through a hard time, if they're struggling, if they're grieving, if they've experienced trauma and reacting to that. And then you've got the extreme version, which would be a diagnosis like major depressive disorder,
right,
where it's impacting your ability to work, your ability to function with your family, your ability to do your basic skills of taking a shower, of making sure you're eating, of paying your bills. It impacts your family life as well, or school if you're younger. And so thinking about that we can fall anywhere within this spectrum, I think is sometimes helpful.
Yeah.
Especially taking context into consideration that you could meet multiple parts of criteria for major depressive disorder, for instance. But if it's something that like has been a crisis that has happened in your life, that's like a natural reaction to that. But thinking about how long it lasts, thinking about the impact of it and the consequences, not just to you, but to people in your life. And I think when you're considering where we are now, if you have less access to resources, it makes it harder to get support.
Yeah.
And your focus is on survival.
Yeah, for sure.
If you think about the context of the impact of technology, where so many people, especially after the pandemic, express feeling loneliness, which isn't necessarily a symptom or criteria of depression, but certainly leads to or connects to this aspect of feeling distanced or misunderstood or alone. And sometimes you might see that in criteria as withdrawing. That component has become more normative. Yeah. So I think when you're seeing words come up a lot in popular culture, it's because we're experiencing more and more of that. And not necessarily that everyone's meeting the full criteria for a diagnosis, but there's something happening in our environment that we need to pay attention to. And I've been really appreciative. I don't know if you go to the doctor and you see the screening, they're asking you like questions on a depressive
why are they
screening.
asking me this question?
But it's good. It's at every opportunity, like,
I get it.
How are you doing? You know, have you like been irritable? Because that can also be a sign of depression. And angry, or have you not felt like getting out of bed? Have you been really tired? Have you felt hopeless? Like, all of those contribute to what we would ultimately put into that mode of depression.
So on this spectrum, it's more of a horizontal, like more the extreme, right? Meets the criteria, but I guess in a different way, are there ways to think about it maybe from like a female versus woman versus male perspective, or the cultural things that you think of that comes to the top of mind?
So, there's different perspectives on this.
Yeah.
I wouldn't classify it by gender. I think you have people who are more emotionally expressive and people who aren't, who are a little bit more reserved. I think that probably makes a bigger difference in how that might manifest. They do talk about in research with kids, you see depression manifesting more as irritability. So it could look like something where someone may say, maybe this child has ADHD because they're so hyperactive, they're so busy, there's so much going on that it's coming out in a different kind of way. But that's sort of the one thing that I might say, like, there's a clear distinction of how this might manifest. I think across gender, it's more temperament and personality. And how that's discussed. Now, there is like postpartum depression that is talked about, but I mean, I don't know how many research studies have been done on fathers and them being impacted. So I do think there's sort of an equal access to how it might manifest culturally. And you can maybe speak to this a little bit more. I think the message historically to men has been not to express as much. But then, like in our culture, the strong Black woman or super woman stereotype also prevents some of that expression of feeling depressed or feeling sad. So I think it can manifest across both.
No, I love that. If someone isn't a counselor, how would you suggest or have them consider supporting someone who may be either showing signs anywhere on how you identify like depression and been on this spectrum approach?
I would check in, especially if you have a history with the person, to say, hey, I've noticed past couple times that we've talked, I've seen X, Y, and Z, or something has changed. I think it's easier to talk about the observable things to point out as opposed to like, I think you need help. I feel like you're, not engaging as much, or that you're just sad. Like, that is not as helpful for someone. It may make someone feel like they're on the defensive. As opposed to saying like, the last 5 times we were supposed to go out, you canceled. Are you okay? What's going on? Can I help? Can I be supportive? Have you thought about talking to someone and sort of normalizing that aspect of receiving support? That's my biggest platform, is just normalizing conversations. I think that's like the biggest support, is normalizing conversations and making it okay for someone to be able to come express how they're feeling or what's coming up for them. And also just adding to that, like just sitting with them alone. You mentioned earlier, not trying to be the fixer. I mean, just letting them just feel your presence, and through that, conversations will come out. And that even plays out even in our work as therapists. In play therapy, just literally sitting with someone, whether it's playing tic-tac-toe or we're coloring something, we're drawing, or in the sand tray. It may not be a lot of words exchanged, but just sitting there and them feeling my support, whether it could be nurturing support or like just being there, and just obviously reflecting back when I'm observing. But like at the end of one of my sessions, I'm remembering that at the end of that, that's when they sort of broke out with all this stuff eventually. So there's power in presence, essentially. That was a long way to get there, but that's true.
I love that reminder. And thank you for sharing. So of course, y'all, this is all the brilliance that we got going through seminary, but just in general, you're amazing, and kind of really gave shape to help people understand more about when we use that word in language. You know, of course, that was one specific diagnosis, essentially depression, but there's many others. But that one, thank you for clarifying and talking through that one. Also, you wrote a book.
Yeah.
Have you only written one book, or was it? I think the one. Okay, just one.
Yeah.
But that was a huge task.
Yeah.
Your book it's called The Mental Health Basics for Spiritual and Religious Leaders. First of all, thank you for doing that. I actually have read it, not from cover to cover, I have to admit, but
it's got some stuff.
Yeah, I think my way of doing it was kind of pulling out some components, basically, because start with the table of contents, but
exactly.
But obviously, I got some of the intros. On counselor, I got some of the some more language, because I think part of what I needed for I sent the link to a particular pastor who was asking me some questions in one of my workshops that I was doing, and just kind of opened up his horizon. So your book is amazing. It's on the Seminary of the Southwest website. Tell us more about the book and what inspired you to do that.
I think there were, similar to what you were saying, questions just in general about counseling, about ways to engage as a spiritual religious leader, a minister or clergy person, with the mental health community.
Yeah.
And so instead of being able to say like, well, we can set up a time to talk, like I wanted to have a resource.
Yeah.
And also teaching at a seminary, wanting to be able to have something that Masters of Divinity students could also have as a quick access.
Yeah.
So it was meant to be a resource. It's free and gives, like you said, you should just like look at the table of contents and go for what you need. So it's not necessarily something you have to read from like front to back, but to give specifics around different themes.
What is sort of like the hope of that particular project is? I guess I'm curious about the reach. I know it lives on the website. But are you hoping to like push it out more, or how are you trying to get it into the hands of those clergy people and mental health professionals? Because I think both sides of the fence need that connection.
Yeah, that's a good question. I haven't thought about it beyond its initial writing. It was part of a culmination of a grant to have this sort of outcome. And it was something that I just sent out to anyone and everyone who was willing to listen. Right. Like, this is a resource. You're welcome to use it. And I think that the hope was that it would foster some examples of ways to collaborate. There's like an example at the end of each chapter where it talks about like, let's say this came up in your religious context. How might you be able to consult with a therapist? And so that's maybe talking points that could turn into something in the future.
Nice. I'll link the book to this episode, so make sure y'all check it out. It's an amazing book by the one and only Dr. Awa Jangha. Again, the book is called Mental Health Basics for Spiritual and Religious Leaders. I'm gonna keep going. So every episode we read a letter from a listener, and we just hold space. This person might be navigating life, mental health, and everything in between. And so this particular letter came from Shannon. She says, "Dear Hill Talib, lately my husband hasn't seemed like himself. He's withdrawn, anxious, and says he doesn't want to go to work anymore. He says, I'm worried he may be showing signs of depression, but I don't know how to help without nagging or making him," why did I say that like that? Sorry. "Without nagging or making him feel judged. How can I best support him and encourage him to open up?" How would you, first of all, we thank you for writing in, Shannon. We definitely are listening, and we hear you, and of course holding space for you and your husband. Thank you for writing in. How would you support Shannon? Are there ways that you would maybe begin having a conversation with her? Not assuming she's not your client at all. This is not therapy, but how would you support her?
I think in that context, it's helpful to state the very things that she put in her letter, to be able to articulate what's coming up for her, the worry and concern, so that it doesn't feel like nagging, but it's an honest conversation around, what am I feeling? What am I worried about? What do you need? And then also honoring the response of her husband, so that it doesn't feel like pushing or coercion, but just sort of a check-in as to like, this is what I'm seeing and this is what I'm concerned about. Yeah. What do you want? Not necessarily for me, but how can I support you?
Yeah. And I think the other thing that comes up for me, and if it feels like, and I know the question is more about how do I help her? How does she help her husband? But I think it's also helpful to also continue to help yourself, not sort of go beyond your own boundary limits. Yeah. And so self-care is definitely important. And the more you have more self-compassion about your own needs and kind of even your capacity to help, that's also important. And so I think just don't want to forget that. I know this is about the other person, but keeping the fence on your side kind of open and clear, and reminding yourself to take care of you is super helpful. Of course, the more we normalize conversations, I don't recommend always sharing stories, but just keeping the space open in case they want to share more about like his needs. But again, like you said, just pausing to to see if any response comes out of it, but then maybe offering any resources that she feel comfortable. But again, just restricting the need to go beyond like your individual boundaries could be helpful. And less stress, but I want in there. I want to keep that in there. I want to say one last thing. First of all, thank you, Shannon, for writing in to the show. And we're going to wrap it up shortly. But I have another question, which is, I love thinking about, what do I call them? Healing habits. And healing habits are like small, bite-sized habits that we're doing every day, practical tools that we're sharing with people. What's a healing habit that you would suggest to anyone in this season right now?
A healing habit. There's a couple that come to mind. Walking for me is healing.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll pray as I walk, but there's just something really meditative. There's something really calming and grounding.
Yeah.
Of moving my feet and then letting whatever thoughts are coming through come through.
Yeah.
While also, if you're able to go outside, like having nature also help and give some peace in that. It sometimes I'll have like a 5 or 10 minute walk.
Yeah.
Or I'll have more time and it can be longer, but adjusting it so that this is something that I can practically do has been a good lifetime habit for me. And then I think just remembering things that have worked before that have been useful. So recently I was looking through one of my journals and I was like, I haven't listened to like praise and worship music, like on my way into work.
That's mandatory.
Like intentionally. And I find that when I started to do that, like it would, the song I was listening to, last song I was listening to would stay in my spirit and it's with me throughout the day. But having that be like intentional on my way in to work and also like relieve whatever stress from traffic is happening to where I don't want to cuss the person out who's driving next to me. I'm like, well, let me send you a little bit of a prayer. I don't know what you're going through right now, but you're in a rush. It just changes perspective in some ways. So that's tapping into something that, I've been doing before, but wasn't doing recently.
Wow. That's amazing. And so she took one of the things from one of my episodes, honestly, because I think that's important. Like setting that early intention, it really sets the tone for the whole day. So that's important. It keeps me grounded and it keeps me not having to, like you said, curse somebody out because they cut me out. But and also just inviting God into my life for that day and letting him lead me throughout everything. So amazing. But I didn't want to leave without giving you your flowers. So this actually is for you. These are 4-inch roses. Yes.
Hopefully they'll live.
Yes, they will. And that's fine.
These are great. Thank you.
But they're for you. I want to give you your flowers. I don't know if I said this to you directly. I mentioned this on one of the episodes, honestly. So, of course, with Seminary Southwest, I had 3 great professors. Of course, there's everyone else that I missed, and I will get to them at some point. But you, Dr. Johnson, and Dr. Reyna have been obviously very critical and pivotal in my life, in my journey becoming a therapist. But you in particular I wouldn't be a therapist without you. I think you know a little bit of the story.
I think you would have found it.
Well, I think maybe, but the reality is, so I'm not sure if you remember, we mentioned off air that I wanted to become a Stephen minister, but no, I didn't get the training. But fast forward, because there wasn't even a conference that I could attend. I went down the rope of going to maybe another different seminary, but I didn't want to do MDiv. I didn't want to do a certificate in ministry. Yeah. So I tried 3 other options, but ultimately, like Pastor Parker actually led me to come talk to you.
Yeah.
And so my first visit on seminary's campus was coming to your office, and I think. So obviously going to your office from the parking lot, there's a cross there, by the way, and then your office is like a kind of like a quasi therapy room. So I think as I entered, I think God was like, "This is your home. This is your home." And I think what added to it is just having just a gentle, calm conversation with you about what it's like to be a therapist. Just all the questions that I had. Just you gave me some tea, so that was also calming.
Yeah.
But no, it was just amazing to really have you be sort of my front door into this particular field. And so of course I'm a therapist now, but you were sort of the launching pad for that, so I appreciate it. And maybe I think God used Pastor Parker and you to say, hey, this is where you should be. So definitely want to give you your flowers because you've been an amazing, what word I want to give you? Just an amazing woman and woman of faith and mentor and professor the whole way through. So thank you for that for sure.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I'm super proud of you.
Thank you.
I'm excited about where your journey is going.
Yes. Eyes have not seen.
And listen, ears have not heard.
No, but thank you for being here. Everyone, thank you for watching. This has been another episode of the Hill to Lead podcast with the one and only Dr. Awa Jangha. I am your host, Kevin Overton-Hadnot. Remember, it's not about perfection, it's about presence. All right, thank you for watching.